The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second Forward to the Future series presentation. We have Andy Lelewski and Manish Chourey. Did I say that right? With us today from North Carolina Turnpike, presenting on toll roads. So, Andrew, Manish, take away.
Great. Thank you, Sravia. Glad to be here this afternoon with everybody. This is not my first presentation to NCTA. A long time ago in my career, one of my first presentations I ever gave was to the ITE conference in Seattle, Washington. That was probably back in the early 2000s. I was an engineer down in Florida, and we spoke about some of the traffic analysis we were doing for one of the toll roads down in Florida. So glad to be here with the NCTA folks today. I'm the Director of Program Development at the Turnpike. I've been at the Turnpike now for about 13 years. Started with the Turnpike early on before the Triangle Expressway opened up in Raleigh. So I've seen a lot of growth at Turnpike, and today I'm going to speak a little bit about what's coming up in the future in regards to the engineering side of Turnpike, and hopefully it tailors to a lot of the subjects that you're interested in with the NCTA program. Also with me is Manish Chourey, and Manish is a coworker of mine at the Turnpike, and he's been with the Turnpike for a few years, and he's responsible for the toll operations program at NCTA. So Manish, do you want to say a few words and a welcome?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Manish Chourey. I'm with North Carolina Turnpike, and my official title here is Chief Technology Officer, primarily responsible for the technologies which we deploy in our tolling systems in North Carolina. And I'll talk a little bit about what our systems are and where we are headed towards in the coming years. Glad to be here. And this is my first presentation here.
Great. Thanks, Manish. So for today, we have probably around a 30 to 40 minute presentation. And Sravia, I think we have time at the end for questions. I don't know if you normally take questions as part of these, but we left a little bit of time at the end in case we have that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's definitely have that session. Yes.
Great. So I guess I'll just start advancing the slides. Perfect. There's our names. Okay. A little bit about Turnpike. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, we were born back in 2002 we were established by the North Carolina General Assembly. Hired our first director, David Joyner, around 2005. And in 2009, we were transferred under the Department of Transportation. We originally were a standalone unit, really established as an individual group by the General Assembly, but in 2009, under Secretary Conti, we were transferred under the Department of Transportation, and really that started a new era for Turnpike as we started becoming very integrated with DOT in regards to a lot of the construction and engineering aspects. In 2011, we hit a major milestone. I became a Turnpike employee in about 2008. And then in 2011, we opened up our first toll road, the Triangle Expressway. The first phase of that road opened up. That was a real exciting time for us, many, many years of planning and getting ready for that day. And good day for all of us as we opened up the first phase of the Triangle Expressway. We then went through a period where we exclusively operated the Triangle Expressway. And then in 2018, we opened up our second road in Charlotte, the Monroe Expressway. And then 2019, we had our groundbreaking for the extension of the Triangle Expressway, which is the 540 piece to the south of Raleigh, stretching from Holly Springs over to the Garner area. And we opened up a few other interchanges in 2017 and 2020. So that gives you a little bit of a brief timeline on what the Turnpike is and major milestones that we've had. I like to show this map to give people an idea. We are a statewide program. We started out in Raleigh, but I mentioned we have a road in Charlotte and Monroe. Shown there in the green boxes are the projects that we operate now. Also shown there in the box highlighted or outlined in green, it's the I-77 express lanes. And for those of you that are familiar with I-77, it's a P3 project that the DOT opened up a few years ago. And our role on that is to collect the tolls. So Manish may talk about that a little bit, but his group is responsible for the toll collection from the customers on that roadway, and we have an agreement with the concessionaire on how we process those transactions and control the flow of money between our group and the concessionaire. Also shown on the map here are two projects that are under construction, shown in gray. I'll talk about those in a little bit, and a few projects that we have in the planning side, the Mid-Currituck Bridge, US 74 express lanes, and I-77 South. I'll go through real quick the projects. Mentioned the Triangle Expressway. This gives you an idea where it's at for those of you who don't know. This was the first project that opened up in Raleigh, and really it opened up as an all-electronic expressway. This is pretty innovative at the time. Most toll agencies were still collecting tolls through cash. All of our projects are all electronic, which means our customers pay with either using a transponder that's mounted in their vehicle and they have a prepaid account, or we toll by license plate. This is the Monroe Expressway. It's essentially a bypass of the US 74 express lanes in Charlotte. I'm sorry, the US 74 corridor in Charlotte, a high-speed expressway. And this opened up to traffic in November of 2018. Also an all-electronic roadway. And finally, this is the I-77 corridor. This is the project that I mentioned is a partnership between the DOT and a concessionaire. And again, our role on this project is to process the tolls. It's roughly a 26-mile-long corridor north of the city, either 2 express lanes or 1 express lane, depending on where you're at on the corridor. And this is the idea behind express lanes here, is that it's a dedicated lane for drivers looking to seek reliable travel time. So essentially you can pay a toll to close to guarantee yourself a reliable speed throughout that green corridor there on I-77. This is one of the projects that I mentioned is under construction right now. The area, or the line there shown in blue, is a corridor that's under construction. We hope to open up that in a few years, and it's essentially an extension of the Triangle Expressway there from Holly Springs over to I-40. The line there in green is the next phase of the project that's a little bit further out. It's not yet under construction, but under the planning process right now. Ultimately, you can see this would complete the outer loop in Raleigh. Picture of the 540 construction. This is near the I-40 interchange. It's a large turbine interchange. A lot of bridges, a lot of movements here. It also incorporates the US 70 bypass that heads into Clayton. So very complicated interchange. If any of you have driven along I-40 recently, you see the amount of construction not going on, not just going on from our project, but also the I-40 widening out there. Another project that I'm going to talk a little bit about is the I-485 express lanes. This is a project that's a DOT project. This is a widening of I-485 to include express lanes along the corridor. So it's roughly a 20-mile corridor between I-77 and US 74 through the Ballantyne area and Weddington, Matthews, and very congested interstate for those of you that are from the Charlotte area. The DOT is underway with the construction project, as I mentioned, to add 1 express lane in each direction. A little bit of widening in there, some new interchange work. Very, very large project, very complicated project that I'll talk a little bit about coming up. I mentioned it's under construction. This is something that we're really involved in from the Turnpike side. as we partner with the DOT. And like I-77, our role on this project is to install the toll collection equipment, operate that equipment, collect the tolls from customers, provide the customer service, and act as the toll operator on the corridor. So a lot to be worked out still with the DOT on the ultimate operations of the corridor, but our role certainly is to collect the tolls as I mentioned, as we do on the I-77 express lanes. And this is a project right now that we expect to open up probably around the 2024-2025 timeframe. This picture gives you an idea of what it looks like now. This is I-485, obviously the 2 lanes of travel in the direction, in the eastbound and westbound direction. And this is mainly over on the east side of the corridor, where there's 2 general purpose lanes in each direction. And you can see the work that the contractor has right now in the median to add the express lanes there. I wanted to throw a few videos in here. This gives you an idea of what the corridor looks like right now. One of the things that we've been working really close on with the resident on the project is obviously with the Turnpike's role to collect tolls on the project, we're very concerned about the infrastructure that's going in, the gantries, the sign structures, the large numbers of ITS devices out there. So one of my jobs at the Turnpike is to help provide that liaison between the construction outfit, the resident's office, and also the Turnpike to make sure that a lot of this new innovative type infrastructure related to the toll collection system is built properly, and it's ready for Manish when him and his team get there to install a lot of the roadside technology. So one of the things we've been doing is we ride the corridor every week or two to give us an idea of how the progress is going on the corridor. And you see here on the bottom of your screen when I play the video, this is an actual overlay of the roadway design. And we've overlaid where the sign structures are and the foundations. So as we drive through the corridor, you can see a lot of the devices pop up on the screen to give us an idea of where things will be, or if we see a foundation in the video, we can tie it back to the design and get an idea of how things are working. So this was taken a couple weeks ago. You get an idea of the construction happening in the median. We just passed a foundation there that will be a toll rate sign. Really gives you an idea of the amount of work happening in the corridor. And this next video here, this is an area that the contractor just shifted traffic over to the median side. So the area that the vehicle is riding on right now will someday be express lanes. So right now the contractor shifted traffic from the outside to the inside as they continue widening on the 485 corridor. But a lot going on this project right now. As I mentioned, it's just a huge project. A lot of coordination going on between us and the DOT for certain. So that gives you all an idea of hopefully what the Turnpike is about in terms of our projects that we're operating and projects that are under construction or planning. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about my thoughts on when we talk about forward to the future on the engineering side. What's coming up? Where does the Turnpike fit in with the Department of Transportation? What are some of those engineering concerns that I've seen as we've evolved from where we were at with the Triangle Expressway to where we're at today? So I'll comment a little bit on that and share some stories, and then Manish is going to take over from me and talk a little bit more about some of the forward-thinking ideas that he has from the customer service and toll operation side. So one of the things I wanted to share with you all is that I think the Turnpike role at the department is evolving. And the reason why I say that is you saw that when we opened up the Triangle Expressway, that was really a standalone project that the Turnpike was tasked with building, operating, and maintaining. And just like on the Triangle Expressway, followed the same sort of a pattern in the delivery side with the Monroe Expressway. One of the unique things about those projects is they were financed partly with bond proceeds. And so we sold bonds on those projects based on traffic and revenue projections from our toll paying customers. And there's a very complicated, detailed financial model between those projects where, as I mentioned, they were financed by not only the revenue bonds, but appropriation money from the state. That's a very unique model. And while we're following that with the Complete 540 project in Raleigh, I mean, on the south part of Raleigh there that we talked about, I don't see that happening as much with future DOT projects. The I-485 Express Lane project, for example, is financed through STIP funds. I mentioned there on the bottom of the screen the potential projects. We're looking at new expressways, new express lanes. There's some bridge projects, and there's also some peak shoulder lane projects. These are all the type of projects that the DOT is looking at, either in the prioritization process through SPOT or other planning projects that are coming in from local municipalities. We don't see as many, and I have not heard about as many standalone toll projects like the Triangle Expressway and Monroe Expressway. I think we'll start to see more express lanes, bridges, shoulder lanes as the department looks at ways to fund these types of projects, and also realizes that there's different tools in the toolboxes to solve congestion and revenue problems. One of the projects that I wanted to mention and talk about a little bit more is that I-485 project that I showed you some of the videos and maps and we talked about. I think that this is probably the most complicated ITS and toll infrastructure project to date. And I know the NCDOT group is, some of your interests are on the signing and traffic and ITS side of things. So I wanted to put some statistics on here. When you look at that project from end to end, there's 20 locations where customers can either enter or exit the facility. And those are complicated areas. A lot of traffic analysis goes into that to make sure that the project operates smoothly and that customers can get in and out safely. If any of you have driven on I-77, you know how those ingress and egress locations work. There's 217 ITS devices on the corridor, whether it's cameras or traffic detectors. There's a large ITS and toll conduit and fiber network, over 26 or over 25 miles of fiber on the project, 47 power meters. We have 17 overhead toll rate message signs. Those are the signs that let customers know what the toll rate is before they choose to before they make that decision to enter the express lanes. And there's 9 AET or all electronic toll gantry points. All of these devices talk to each other. One of the things that always amazes me when we lay out the design of these projects, everything goes hand in hand. The locations of those overhead signs, the locations of the static signs, the cameras, the detector points. When we laid out the project, we thought about those all as a whole, not just looking at those as individual pieces as we sometimes do on other highway projects. This gives you an idea of a toll gantry location. This is a picture from I-77. So when we talk about the toll gantries on 485, this is what they look like. So when the contractor goes out there and constructs these things, they construct the truss and the foundation and the pull-offs and the cabinetry. Manish and his group comes in and installs the equipment that you see hanging here and all the cabinetry and everything else to make it work so that we can collect the toll accurately on the project. You all have seen these pictures. Not gonna spend a lot of time on these. You know what these are, the cameras and the detectors. One of the unique things on the project with 485 is this toll rate sign. And this is a picture from I-77, but the signs on I-485 will look very similar. And again, these signs talk back to the toll collection system that's connected to the detection systems. That's all tied back to the toll collection system through our fiber network. So a lot going on out there. I know you can't see this, but I want to share this with you. This is something that one of our team members put together. We use it all the time. It's printed out on our wall. Shows the 20 miles along the corridor, and those hundreds of devices are identified here along with the ingress and egress locations. When you zoom in, this is one of the ingress and egress points here by Westinghouse Boulevard over on the west area of the project. You get an idea of all the things that are going on out there. There's a traffic signal here. These blue areas are detection points. There's cameras. There's a fiber optic network. In this location, there happens to be 3 tolling points to capture different movements. So these are things that it doesn't. They just don't happen. A lot of time was spent after the project was let to make sure that coordinate with that design build team, whether it's the contractor or the residence office, so that they understand what we're building in relations to the toll equipment. And it's fairly new when you get a contractor that hasn't built a toll road before in the state. This is all foreign to them. So we spend a lot of time at the Turnpike talking about what these things are and why the road is designed the way it is, so that downstream we have a really good product. And this is my last slide, and I really just wanted to wrap it up for everybody. And I mentioned the future, and so as the department looks at other types of toll projects, whether it's peak shoulder lanes or new express lanes or bridges or even standalone toll projects, the coordination on these projects may be a little bit different than you've seen on projects in the past. Just looking at some of these boxes here, these are all the people that we interact with all the time, and I know you all do on your projects as well. But when we talk to the traffic engineers, it isn't just the intersections or the interchanges working correctly. It's, can you get people in and out of the toll lanes effectively and safely? Signing, can you communicate to the customers, how do you pay the toll? How much is the toll? Where does it get you? It's a very complicated type system out there with the number and arrangement of signs along a corridor, especially on an express lane corridor. You get the roadway designers that obviously are looking to not only get people in and out safely, but we look at things like enforcement. How do people, when they're traveling on the express lanes, how do they pull over safely if they have a problem? Do we design it correctly so that if they're in this channelized area, what do they do if they need help? ITS and toll system folks, the number of technology devices out here, we look early on to make sure that we're thinking about, are all these things able to be located effectively? Is it near a power service? Is it trouble to get conduit and connect all these things? Maintenance, we're not just looking at maintaining the roadway and the pavement and the bridges. Now we're looking at maintaining toll collection equipment and cameras that might be in a tricky spot. We may be looking at delineators that separate the general purpose lanes and the express lanes. How do we maintain those? I mentioned the resident engineers and the CEI folks. There's, as I mentioned, that this is a lot of these projects are new. They're new concepts. So getting those folks up to speed so that when we're out there inspecting projects or looking at the construction progress or answering questions coming in, it's good to have that team up to speed. And as I mentioned, part of my job is in making sure that that construction team, for example, on 45, knows what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that gives you an idea. My vision for the future here, and part of my responsibility is to make sure that these teams that work on these projects really understand the differences and the unique aspects of toll projects and how it's different than regular construction projects, so that when we cut that ribbon on I-485, everything works smooth. And Manish had a good experience along the way with his toll folks as they install that equipment. So that's what I have. And Manish, I'll turn it over to you and I'll advance your slides for you.
Thanks, Andy. And Andy explained lots of different activities which happen from the construction all the way to the gantries. And what I'm going to talk is taking this, what is a toll system, talk a little bit about our vision for the toll systems, how we have innovated over the years, and impacts of it all the way to the customer. So go ahead to the next slide, Andy. So over the years, the technology has evolved, as you all have seen, in the amount of iPhones and mobile technology which has grown in the last 10 years. That's the change which we are seeing just on our consumer aspects of it. But so is the technology which we have for us to be able to collect tolls. So we, as a very innovative agency, a tolling agency amongst all the across the country, we came up. We didn't start with cash booths collecting tolls. We started with all electronic tolling, which Andy mentioned. And there are two ways we collect the tolls, right? One is you have RFID transponder which you put on your car windshield, or if you don't have that, we capture your license plate. So that's the two different ways of collecting revenue. And what we are trying as our vision, we are trying to find more efficient ways of customers to be able to make toll payments. And that's one of, and that gives the customer the ability to choose what type they would want to use to make a payment. And for us as a Turnpike, be able to collect that revenue more efficiently. The second aspect of our vision is, just as I mentioned, the technology is evolving. And what used to be a big data center with lots of systems sitting in the data center doing all bunch of networks, bunch of activities interconnected, and a lot of software built very specific to a purpose. That, because the technology is growing so fast, it's getting very harder to build or replace those big platforms or products to do a purposeful thing. So think of it as a way that you build for a particular action, for a particular activity. You build a product which is very specific to doing things. That's great. It was great 10 years ago. Today, the industry is moving so fast that we can't keep changing all the way, replacing the whole product. So what we are trying to do is leverage commercially available tools so that we can do plug and play. Right? You would want things on your iPhone as fast as you would want on the website, and we should be able to not have to build everything, but be able to leverage what's commercially available. In quite a lot of our tolling system is driven by what the traffic is, what's the density, and on I-77 or express lanes, it's driven by the density of traffic on a particular roadway. So to do those type of analysis, we have to have data, and we need to be able to share that data across different organizations within the DOT. So we as a Turnpike, we always were data driven, but we are trying to get the whole organization here to be data driven and make it a service. And so you will see a theme of us moving from, go to the next slide, going from a product based to a more service based. So I would say, in the best commercial way, you say is it's better to buy. Earlier we used to buy. We are going more towards lease. As you use, you provide, you pay for what you use. So that's the way we are changing from a product which was specific to a platform. While when we do this, we are also looking for multiple vendors. As you see, like we have Apples and the Googles and the Windows, they all have different iPhones or different phones. Similarly, on our technology, we are trying to keep ourselves open so that we can use multiple vendors for our systems which we build. We are looking for mobile, and I have a couple examples on how we are using mobile technology to make revenue collection much easier. as an organization, we have set ourselves goals that we would want our maintenance crews to be regionalized. As Andy mentioned, we have toll roads in Raleigh area and then toll roads in Charlotte area. And it's very difficult to have one maintenance crew doing both the regions all at once. So we are trying to get a maintenance approach such way that we are different people in different areas, but a common process to get things. And the last goal which we have set for ourselves is, even with the best technologies and things which we are doing, there are things where we would want to be audited. I mean, this is a transaction, or this is a revenue transaction which is going to hit a customer's account, and we want to be 100 times or 200 times confident that that hits the right customer, and the right picture of the image is linked to the right customer's account. When we talk about that, so we build a lot of audit requirements in the process, and those processes again now were good when we were a small turnpike agency, but as we are growing, our traffic is growing, we are trying to look for ways to automate those kind of transactions. And go to the next slide, and that will help you understand what I'm talking here. I mean, sir, transactions, what you see here is the number of transactions. And when I say transaction, what it means is a vehicle which goes through a particular gantry. And that's a transaction for us. That's a revenue transaction. Either it would have a RFID or a license plate. That makes a transaction. So here, what you see in dark blue is the number of traffic per month for Triangular Expressway, and the lighter blue is for Monroe. And then right in the center, you see around FY20 Q3 and Q4, you saw a dip, and that particular dip is primarily due to the COVID and the impact of COVID on the traffic. And then subsequently, now you're seeing the traffic come back up, both on Monroe and on Triax. So this traffic, in terms of numbers, as you can see, we do in a quarter, we have gone up to 14, FY20 Q2, we were around 14 million transactions on Triax and 9.6 million transactions on Monroe. So very, very large number of transactions and getting generated, and each transaction, when I say transaction, this is revenue for all of us, and that revenue transaction needs to be accounted and be audited all through the different systems. Could you go to the next slide? So just so you appreciate the number of RFIDs which are out issued by North Carolina Quick Pass program. North Carolina Quick Pass program is a Turnpike's CSC, or the customer facing program, and that's what is called as NC Quick Pass program, and you could see that branded all over on the toll signs and on the transponders. When I say here transponders, these are the RFID transponders which you put on the windshield, and what you see here is stacked with different colors. Those are different types of transponders. So we could have a hard case transponder, which is which you can move from vehicle to vehicle, versus a sticker which goes and sticks onto the windshield. And there are different types. Another type of them is a flex transponder, which allows you to say whether you are a single occupant in the vehicle or a multi-occupant or high occupant, what we say, in the vehicle, and you can declare that. So that's all that is done through the transponders. And as you can see, we had issued over 927,000 transponders by end of last year. And this month, we are actually, this particular week, we are celebrating us as Turnpike issuing a 1 millionth transponder. So our transponder sale is our evidence of how good this program is running in North Carolina. And you can see we have peaks of, this is monthly, this chart shows monthly number of transponders we have actually shipped from our service center. Go to the next slide. And this is a very busy slide, but my goal here is to explain you what all toll system includes. And I'm not going to go through every part of it, but I will give you a big picture. On the leftmost side at the top, what we call as the roadside system, if you can see that. The roadside system, just in a nut, is you go through that gantry. There are 5 to 6 different sensors detecting a vehicle, understanding whether you have RFID and read it, or if you don't have it, take a picture of your license plate and do a OCR, basically do an automated read of the plate and try to extract the plate number. All that activities are happening on the roadside. In a particular transaction, driving at 70 miles to 100 miles per hour can be generated in 600 milliseconds. So this is like, you can understand all the sensors working all together to form one revenue transaction, which is within 600 milliseconds. So lots of different real-time activities happens on that leftmost 3 boxes, which are what we call as zone controllers, which are the equipments. Then the ITS equipments, which are out there watching or video recording the vehicles as they go through. And there are different sensors. That is the birth of the transaction at the roadway. That transaction then moves to what we call as operational roadside system. This is operational roadside system is where we collect that real-time transaction into a storage, more permanent storage, what we call as database. A database where this transaction gets recorded. And it's so important because that is the revenue. That blue box transaction now moves towards the right side, which is where you see more of telephones and case management, the right side system. And this system is where the transaction gets linked to the customer who had either bought a transponder or given a license plate to us, and what we call it as back office systems. So transaction on the leftmost starts, rightmost is goes to a customer's account, which is essentially, think of it as you go to the bank ATM, you put in your debit card, that's the roadside. Think of it, you're collecting the money, and going all the way to the back office is where you are actually seeing that debit hits your bank account. And now you can go on a phone, or you can go on to a website or a mobile iPad. You can see that transaction. That's what I would say in a big picture, that's what our tolling system is. It gets further complicated because we have across, just in the East Coast, we have 34 different tolling agencies. 34 tolling agencies just like us. And we have created interoperability between these regions. So if you are a North Carolina customer having a transponder, you could drive in all the way up to Maine, or all the way to Illinois, or all the way to Florida. And that's what I would call as interoperability. And you would, when you're driving, you will not know what roadway you are driving through. And so this is a high level understanding of different components which we have in the system. And when I mentioned earlier on that it was a product and now it's a platform, is different pluggable components. So that's the real system. Now what we are innovating in the last year is how do we increase the way to make payments. and make it user friendly for the customers who do not drive on our roadways on a daily basis. So we launched 2 pilot programs. This is the first pilot program, which is essentially that you can use your iPhone or your smartphone to enroll to make toll payments through your iPhone. The way it works is you go download an app onto your iPhone. This app, at the time of registration, you will put your license plate number and put your payment method, which is your credit card, onto the app. Now then, once you have enrolled it, you drive through the toll road. It will, just like you see on the car plays or other things, that there's toll road ahead. This app will recognize that there is a toll road ahead, and it will also tell you what would be the expected toll amount when you drive through the gantry. So this particular aspect helps the customer who is not using on a daily basis the toll road, but has a way to pay the toll road and controls where it hits which credit card it hits you. That's the customer benefit. From our perspective, I did not explain, if we get a license plate which is not registered to your account, or we do not know the owner of the vehicle, we connect to all the DMVs in the country to understand the name and address of the person who owns that vehicle. So that is a very elongated way of collecting revenue. As you can understand, we have to go find the customer and then send him a bill and then hope that the bill reaches in time and the customer makes a payment. So that's a pretty longer way of collecting revenue. Versus in this particular case, the customer who has a mobile app is essentially owning that and paying us. And for us as Encyclic, it reduces the amount of work which we have to do to collect that toll. And this is one of ways we have gone as a pilot with the mobile app using a vehicle. Go to the next slide. Another way, which is a very big innovation in recent days, and you might have heard, or there's a lot of press on this, even in ABC last week, when it's talking about the innovation, which is how can you use the RFID technology, which is in your car already plugged in, to pay non-toll related items. Which is, so essentially the way it works is this particular pilot is right now deployed in 4 different gas stations where you can go. So here, the same way, for a customer, you get an app, you download the app, you register your RFID, your transponder number, and put a credit card. So now you have linked you as a customer and the credit card method. Once you have done, now if you drive through or go reach out to Circle K has been the 4 gas stations in North Carolina. You drive through, it detects you as a owner. It detects that you have entered the gas station. It sends you an SMS that which gas pump you want to fill gas. And you text back a number, your gas pump number, and then essentially what it does is it opens up for you to fill the gas, remove the gas pumps. You don't have to pay on the pump. You just have to put the pump onto your gas into your car and fill the gas. At the end of it, once you fill it, it's the phone. It will tell you the receipt. So basically, you get the receipt. In this whole thing, it's been such a popular thing in the COVID time period, where people have been able to try to make payments through a very innovative way. Now, the benefit for as an Encyclic is we are again as an innovative agency trying to open up on how we can make payments electronically without having to add more technology onto the roadway. This is a perfect thing which we are looking at. We could use this at airports, at the ferry systems and transit systems. So lots of different options we have by using this type of technology where the customer is actually making a payment through a mobile payment. Go to the next slide. So start moving.
There we go.
Yep. And this is my last slide. So as I mentioned to you that we have sold over 1 million transponders at Encyclic Pass, and we continue to grow. This is just for 2 roadways or 3 roadways which we have, and we continue to grow. So we are looking at more and efficient ways of actually delivering and transponders to you much quicker. In who today does not know about Amazon, and Amazon as and its expertise in delivering or fulfilling a particular order without you having to leave your house. So we are working with another pilot with Amazon where a customer on our side puts in a request for RFID, we essentially take that request and send it to Amazon to fulfill the request. And Amazon is able to do it in much quicker way. I mean, today when we talk about it, we have our SLAs that we will ship it in 5 days. Amazon speeds it up to 2 days. So we're continuing to look at different ways to make ourselves be more up to date with the current technologies and do a very good customer service. So that's really the way our pilots, as you can see, 3 of those pilots which I mentioned. With that, I think that was my last slide. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Manish. Sravya, that's our presentation. I'll close with, I really enjoy working with the Turnpike Authority, and I know Manish does as well. We have a really unique team of not just on the engineering and construction and development side like you normally see with highway projects, but as you can see, there's a lot of talent behind the toll operations and technology side too. And it makes working for the Turnpike really rewarding. I've really enjoyed my time there, and as projects continue to evolve, I think as I mentioned, they're going to become more complicated, and hopefully this presentation gives you an idea of where our eyes are on with the future, whether it's the toll development and construction side of things, the typical engineering construction side, or the technology and customer service and toll operation side. So we're glad to have been able to spend some time with you today and present, and be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Thanks, Manish. That was a great presentation, and it's very cool to see how the technology connects to other things that we would probably do. So we're looking forward to that. So everyone listening, if you have questions, please try to pop them in the questions bot or the chat bot. I'm going to be looking for both. Or if you want to speak up, you can let me know or raise your hand, and I can let you talk. So have any questions? I see one pop up. So what is the cost of processing a pay-by-plate bill that is mailed versus the transponder? Ryan Newcomb has a question. Manish, that's probably for you. What is the cost of processing a pay-by-plate bill that is mailed versus the transponder?
So obviously the transponder is the most efficient and effective way of collecting the toll. and that happens essentially with the customer using RFID who has registered it themselves. And the key there is that they have registered and they upfront have a prepaid balance on the customer's account. That's the most effective and efficient way of doing it. Versus a bill by mail, which is typically, as I mentioned, that we have to look at the license plate, even though we have put in automations for reading the plates in an efficient way, but then we have to go out for looking at DMV lookups with the different states and then sending your invoice, which is the most expensive way. And I would say it varies from 20 to 25% difference in terms of the cost between RFID to a bill by mail.
Thanks, Manish. Any more questions? Oh. Please briefly explain the differences and capabilities of a transponder compared to a sticker.
Yeah, so the sticker does not have an active battery, and it's a sticker which sticks into the windshield. Today the stickers have different protocols. So within the transponders we have different technology inside. So one is a sticker which has a 6C, is the most prevalent protocol, and which comes without battery. Versus a transponder, which is a different transponder, which can move from, which is a hard shell transponder, which can move from place to place, has batteries. And the difference between the two is when you go through a toll zone, there are readers up at the gantry which are capable of reading the RFID. So when the sticker drives through, the reader actually activates the sticker to get the read. So the transaction starts from the reader reading it. Versus a battery transponder, it emits its RFID when it gets activated or gets into the zone. So it's a different technology in terms of their ability to get activated. Both of those protocols are currently active on our roadways and across the country now, or getting there. Meaning not every tolling agency had that type of transponders. But it's primarily having a sticker now has a benefit that it has a longer life. The disadvantage is it sticks to the windshield and it cannot be moved from vehicle to vehicle. Versus the other protocol has a battery with a life, and typically life is 7 to 10 years, and it can be moved from vehicle to vehicle. So that explains that.
Excellent. Next question. Any thoughts on doing a pilot by expanding the technology to VMT fee or mileage-based user fee?
Yeah, and this mileage-based program is something which we are definitely looking at. The technology which for mileage-based has two different variations. One is that you plug in a dongle in your vehicle. That's essentially a way for us to be collecting all your traffic vehicle data. Or the second one, which is the most prevalent one, which is what we are starting to do pilots or thinking of doing pilots, is with the connected vehicles. Now the newer vehicles which are getting sold from the following year with Ford and the following years with other vehicles are that there are RFIDs or radios within the vehicle itself. You do not require a license plate or require a RFID. So these vehicles will have a radio which will always be connected. And for a mileage based, we would want a constant feed of your vehicle's location so that we can actually understand your travel paths and come up with fees. And it is a little bit more complicated, as the fees changes from region to region or county to county or state to state. And that's where the difference comes into play. And connected vehicles that's the reason is the way for you to go for mileage based. And in the interim, you could have a dongle put in your car to do the same type of information. And these vehicles are so intelligent. As you know, Teslas and other things can go to auto drives, but these vehicles give us everything from the time you start the vehicle all the way to turn it off. All the distance it covers, and it collects the data. Just for your appreciation, a toll intersection in California for an hour can provide a data of a petabyte. A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. And terabytes, think of all your laptops which we get are 1 to 2 terabyte machines. So we are talking big, large data, and that's what is where its technology is evolving. And North Carolina definitely will be in the front doing that pilot as well.
Excellent. Another question, and Andy, this is directed towards you. You mentioned NCTA is evolving to include peak shoulder lane use. Can you discuss how these would work and where they might be located?
Sure. One of the projects that we're evaluating right now is a project that was proposed by the local municipalities here in Raleigh, and it would look at peak shoulder lanes along I-540 on the north part of town. So I live in North Raleigh by Creedmoor Road exit with 540, and these shoulder lanes could stretch from, say, around the airport area over, maybe through US 1, maybe past it. But the idea would be to use that shoulder as congestion relief during the peak hours. So it's an interesting way to use tolling, and I always tell folks that are thinking about peak shoulder projects, it's an interesting way to use tolling, not necessarily to generate revenue, but use it as a traffic management tool, just like we use ramp meters or maybe overhead lane control signs. Tolling would be a different way to help manage folks and to allow folks into that peak shoulder lane during peak times. All the details haven't been worked out yet. One of the things that we'd be considering would be maybe using the peak shoulder hour for the top three or four congested hours during the day. The way it would work possibly could be with overhead gantries, reading the transponders that Manish talked about, connected to our back office system. And it would involve a series of lane controllers and cameras and toll rate signs and a lot of the parts and pieces that you saw on the 485 express lanes. So it's new. This would be a new concept to North Carolina, but it's in places. Colorado uses peak shoulder lanes through the I-70 mountain corridor to the west of Denver. There's some up in the DC area, so those would be areas that we'd be looking at to use as a model. But good example of an innovative project that could be coming our way.
Great, and that's all the questions. And once again, Andy, Manish, thank you so much for joining us, and that was a great presentation. Thanks for sharing all the new things coming up at Turnpike. So have a good day, you all. I'm hoping Andy, Manish, our viewers can reach out to you if they have any follow-up questions. So I know there's not contact information, but if anyone needs to reach out to you, I can provide that information. So folks, let me know, and thanks for joining us. Have a great, wonderful afternoon.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.